Hey everybody, welcome to the Happy Harvest Homestead. Even if you're new at raising meat rabbits, you've probably heard of all the benefits that rabbit poop can have. But I'm afraid that some of you may be unaware of the dangers of rabbit poop, which I hope to enlighten you on today. Like most things on this farm, I have learned all this information the hard way by making a mistake and suffering terribly for it, and now I've learned from that mistake and want to share it with you so you don't make the same mistakes. Now, before you freak out and run to your garden to shovel all the rabbit poop up and cart it away, or you run to wash your hands a dozen times because you think it's somehow poisonous to humans or it's going to kill all your plants, don't do that. Rabbit manure is not dangerous in that way at all. Rabbit poop can become very dangerous to your rabbits if you don't manage it properly, especially if you have a colony setup or rabbit tractors or some other setup where your rabbits have access to their poop and they're not in like a wire cage where the poop falls through and they don't even get a chance to touch it or anything. The thing that's really dangerous about rabbit poop are the parasites that are probably in it. Most animal poops have some sort of parasite in it, and while some can be like bad for humans or other animals, it's most likely that your rabbits don't have those types of parasites, and they just have the super common ones that will just affect other rabbits or themselves. Your rabbits right now probably have some sort of parasite already in their body at the moment. It doesn't matter if you just bought your rabbits and they're like fresh breeders. It doesn't matter if you are religious about cleaning your colony or keeping your tractors safe. Even if your rabbits are in cages with wire floors, they probably have some sort of parasite. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's just a normal part of rabbit raising. They're going to go on to have a small amount of parasites for their entire life, and then they'll pass away at a ripe old age without suffering or having any ill effects from them. But problems can arise when your rabbit's parasite load, which is how many parasites are like in their body, grows too high. There's too many parasites. And one of the best ways for a rabbit with a low parasite load to all of a sudden get a high parasite load is through being exposed to either their own poop or the poop of a rabbit with a heavy parasite load and living in that unclean environment for a long time. It is very common for intestinal parasites or liver parasites like Coccidiosis to spread this way. So if you have just built a colony on the grass and they are just munching away on this grass week after week, but now, because they've been staying on the same spot, the grass is starting to get lower and lower, and there's poop buildup some places, and when it rains, everything gets mushy and gross. Your rabbits probably have a medium to high parasite load. What I've just described is the worst colony setup I can think of. But your colony doesn't have to be on the grass to be terrible. I had a wonderfully fine setup in a covered barn where it wouldn't rain, with wire covering our solid dirt floor so they couldn't dig out, and I had lots of fresh straw bedding there. Everything was nice and clean for like a week, and then I should have changed it out, but we were in the middle of a huge snowstorm, and it was negative 15 degrees, which is very rare for Missouri, and every time I went outside, my hands would go numb, and at that point, I was just surviving. I was doing the bare minimum, and then going back to the warm house. So in our gloomy barn, I would do a once-over of the bedding with my dim flashlight, and it looked okay. So I'd switch out the frozen water and then leave. And whenever we opened the barn doors and let in the natural light again, because it was warm enough, I realized my bedding was not clean, and it cost me multiple litters of perfectly healthy grow-outs. Their parasite loads became too heavy, and they slowly wasted away, got skinny and lethargic, and then they would keel over and never wake up again. And, people have told me before, make sure your colony bedding stays clean. I've heard that over and over and over, and you're like, yeah, of course, we'll keep it clean. But, it didn't actually, keep it clean, or terrible things will happen until it happened to me. So I'm here to warn you, pounding my fist, keep your colony clean at all costs. You don't want to suffer the way I've suffered. If you have a colony with bedding, make sure you change that bedding often. Of course, it depends on how many rabbits are in the colony and how big it is, so how much they poop in a big space versus a small space is going to determine how dirty it gets. But if I can see little poops on the bedding, on top everywhere, it needs to be cleaned up. If you have a deep bedding system where you layer bedding on top of each other instead of cleaning it out, do the same thing. Make sure you layer enough bedding, thickly enough, all the time. Don't wait for it to get nasty, or it could be too late. If you have a solid floor colony, then follow my example and sweep the poops up all the time. I do this daily, if not twice a day. I take my trusty broom and sweep all the rabbit poop out the door. I make sure to get all the nooks and crannies and places where little poop balls like to hide. I want to make sure this colony stays super clean, especially because this is the nursery colony where all the babies are born and begin to be raised. Because young rabbits aren't quite as hardy as mature rabbits, and they are at a higher risk of getting parasites. So because of this, like my colony, I make extra sure that all my rabbit tractors that house my medium age kits and my older kits that will eventually be butchered, I make sure to move this tractor at least once a day. Now, for those of you who do have cages, there is one thing I want to point out that you may have issues with, and that is the cage corners. Rabbits love to poop in cage corners, and over the years, a lot of my cages have gotten buildup of poo mixed with pee all smashed into the wire. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get it out. But when I do clean out, some spilt hay out of the cage, or if I happen to glance at it during the day, and I notice that there is new poop buildup, I make sure to clean out that corner. Because even if the rest of your wire is clean and the poop falls through, rabbits like to poop where they pooped before, so oftentimes they choose this corner as their poop corner, and it'll get nasty and gross, and could possibly give them parasites. So make sure all your cage corners are nice and clean. Alright, so that is my message. Please keep your colonies clean and as free from poop as possible so that your rabbits continue to have a healthy, small parasite load so they can go on to live long, productive lives and not waste away and die from coccidiosis like mine did. Thanks for watching.